3 days ago. The haunting truth about my grandson's birth in no one expected. It started 3 days ago, the type of day you feel something in the air, a chill crawling down your spine. It was my daughter, Sarah, who called me, breathless and trembling, the world behind her fading. She was in labor, and her voice was jagged, filled with fear and anxiety. Little did we know this birth would shatter every expectation. Every tiny detail screamed strange right from the start. The moment I arrived at the hospital, a thick fog hovered outside, wrapping the building in an eerie cocoon. There were whispers in the hallways, voices merging with the sound of monitors beeping rhythmically, as if they were participants in a sinister melody. Hours passed, yet time felt suspended. Nurses rushed back and forth, their faces pale, eyes wide as if they'd seen something unexplainable. A blinking light on the machine added to the tension in the room, like it was tapping its invisible fingers on the edge of sanity. An old woman in a wheelchair stopped me, her eyes glassy and distant, muttering, "The boy. He is special." The words hung heavy like a threat. What did she know? I could feel my heart race, every pulse echoing the silent dread around us. Suddenly a loud crash jolted everyone. A metal tray clattered to the floor, slicing through the tension like a knife. The staff rushed to attend to the chaos, leaving Sarah alone for a moment, eyes wild with uncertainty. "Mom, something's wrong," she whispered, her voice shaky, a lump forming in my throat as I grasped her hand. I didn't answer. What could I say? The air turned electric. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the minutes slipped away, a cacophony of sounds erupted: screams, frantic calls for help, the wailing of a newborn piercing through the chaos. When the doctor finally entered, his face was grim, shadows lined his eyes, like he had seen too much today. "We need to prepare you," he paused, glancing towards the door, a flicker of fear in his gaze that sent chills racing through me. "We've never encountered anything like this." His words faded into a haunting silence, leaving us standing at the edge of oblivion, teetering on the brink of a dark mystery. What had Sarah unleashed onto the world? What lay hidden within that tiny heartbeat? This wasn't just a birth. It was the beginning of something we could never expect. As I stood there, dread knotting in my stomach, I couldn't shake the feeling that with every second, we were unraveling into something far more sinister. The door swung open wider, and the doctor stepped in, his expression twisted with urgency. He seemed a specter of despair, the air heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. "We need to act now." He gestured sharply for the nurses to gather around, each face betraying the tension that hung in the hospital walls like fog. I gripped Sarah's hand tighter, my pulse quickening. "What is happening?" My voice came out as a hoarse whisper, barely loud enough to cut through the air thick with fear and uncertainty. But he only glanced at me, his eyes revealing a deep well of horror that he barely contained. It felt like a betrayal for him not to share the secrets he had stumbled into, secrets that might decide Sarah's fate, and that of the child she bore. "Something's wrong with the baby, the way he's coming into this world," he said, urgency lacing every syllable. "We need to prepare for." His voice trailed off and sweat beaded on his forehead. "Just stay calm, please." Then the chaos erupted anew, but this time it seemed like a tidal wave, a storm of shrill beeping sounds as machines flashed erratic lights. Nurses' shouts echoed. One cried out for additional help, calling for specialists. The air buzzed with palpable dread, an electric current coursing through my body. "Mom!" Sarah's voice broke through my paralysis, pulling me back to her side. Her eyes, wide with fear, sought solace in my own. "What is happening? I can't do this." She trembled, squeezing my hand like it was her last lifeline. "I'm here, sweetheart. Just focus on me," I urged her, though my heart was thudding against my chest, matching the frantic energy in the room. My mind raced. The old woman's words echoed in my head. "The boy. He is special." What did that even mean? I looked towards the doctor, barely able to breathe as I tried to read the situation. Suddenly a loud alarm blared, red lights flashing wildly, piercing through the haze of fear. The doctor barked orders, "We need more light in here. Grab the emergency kit." Panic ignited in my chest. What could possibly be wrong? Around us, frantic staff worked like a swarm of bees, buzzing all around without the ability to refocus their swarm's intentions. I caught snippets of their conversations, words that twisted into barbed points of anxiety. Anomaly, fetal distress, unprecedented. Each word was a dagger to my heart. Then silence fell. A heavy, suffocating silence. The chaos paused for barely a heartbeat, like the world itself held its breath. A release of energy swirled through the room. I glanced at Sarah. She was magnificent and terrifying, caught in a struggle beyond normal human comprehension. Just then, a piercing scream erupted from within. It cut through the silence like glass shattering. Everyone froze. The cry hung in the air, a chilling omen that sent dread spiraling through me. What was happening to my grandchild? The doctor's gaze shifted, not towards us but toward the monitors. A devoid expression washed over him. "We need to brace ourselves," he murmured, looking deeper into the screen as if searching for all the answers he didn't want to find. The room spun on its axis. Brace ourselves? How could I brace myself for what was coming? My mind was a maelstrom of thoughts, each one worse than the last. This wasn't just about life or death. It felt as if an ancient curse had been unleashed. Suddenly, Sarah inhaled sharply, tension radiating from her body. "Mom, something is wrong with him." The lights flickered, and the ominous hum of the machines shifted. Then I saw an unnatural shadow flitting across the monitors, forming something monstrous just beneath the surface. My stomach dropped, dread coiling like a snake around my heart. What had we invited into our lives? And as the darkness deepened, a thought crept in. What if this child, this boy, was not just special, but a harbinger of doom? The moment teetered on the edge, a cliff of horror waiting to drop us into an abyss. All I could think was, what if we weren't just witnessing a birth but the awakening of something intended to remain buried? As the shadows lurked closer, I could feel reality slip further from our grasp, leaving nothing but uncertainty and fear in its wake. What awaited us next? Would we survive the truth that was about to claw its way into our lives? The lights dimmed even further, shrouding the room in an eerie twilight. Shadows danced around the sterile walls, stirring an unsettling chill. Sarah's breath quickened, turning shallow like a frightened animal trapped in a corner. I squeezed her hand again, desperate to anchor her in this storm of chaos. What's wrong? Her voice trembled and tears streamed down her cheeks. I felt my own throat tighten, words evading me. How could I reassure her when I didn't even understand what was happening? The doctor leaned closer to the monitor, eyes wide with disbelief. "It can't be," he muttered under his breath, the words spilling out like an incantation gone awry. I wished I could hear more, to grasp what might lie behind that look of horror. The air was thickening, suffused with a sense of dread that pressed against my chest, making each breath more difficult. Suddenly, the monitors emitted a loud wail, a shriek that sliced through the silence like a chainsaw. The doctor jumped back, his eyes gleaming with urgency. "We need to prepare for an emergency procedure." He turned to the nurses, his command sharp and swift, but my focus was entirely on Sarah. She was shaking now, her body racked with fear. I can't do this." Another scream echoed from her lips, a guttural sound filled with primal anguish. "You can, Sarah. You're stronger than you think," I pressed, though doubt gnawed at me like a hungry beast. Behind my courage was a ravenous fear that devoured every thought of hope. What if she couldn't? What if that boy, that harbinger of doom, took her with him into the abyss? The chaos intensified as the nurses rolled in a cart loaded with instruments I never wished to see, each shiny tool glinting ominously under fluorescent lights. As they moved in concerted haste, a thought flickered in my mind, a shadow of foreboding lurking just behind the bright surface of their urgency. My gut twisted. Then there it was again, the flickering shadow. It darted across the monitors, pulsating, almost alive. Was it something from another realm? A message? It felt as if it had weight, a presence that called out, teasing the edges of my awareness, whispering the truth just out of reach. The monitor blared a continuous tone, and the doctor's face hardened. There is limited time. We need to assess what is happening before his voice trailed, the frightening implications hanging in the air like a noose. Before what? I finally heard myself shout. It felt surreal, like I was watching everything unfold in slow motion. I caught the fleeting glances exchanged between the doctor and the nurse's, eyes wide. Breaths held, fear evident. "Mom, please," Sarah pleaded. "Do something." "I'm trying." I felt like a deer caught in oncoming headlights, frozen with fear and uncertainty. This wasn't just about saving Sarah and the child. It felt like a test, a cosmic judgment, as if the universe was watching and waiting for our next move. Suddenly, an insidious whisper reached my ears, a voice that curled around my thoughts like smoke. He's not just coming to the world, he's bringing something with him. Something dark. My heart raced as only one thought continued to repeat in my mind. What if this was not just a birth but an invasion? The doctor peered into Sarah, determination lining his features. We cannot let anything disturb the balance. Balance? What balance was left when secrets writhed like shadows in the light of day? I looked at Sarah, her face a mask of fear and pain, and that sense of impending doom swallowed any semblance of hope. As the lights above flickered violently, the screams morphed into a symphony of chaos. Just then a cold breeze grazed my skin, whispering secrets from the dark before I suddenly realized I could not fight this alone. The room blurred around me as uncertainty closed in. We were standing on the precipice of something far more dangerous than any of us could have imagined. What awaited us as we peered further into the shadows? And then there it was. An unearthly sound that resonated through the air. A simultaneous cry. From Sarah and the unseen being within her, echoing the deepest fears hidden in every heart. What was this truth we were yet to uncover? What awaited us in the storm beyond? The chaos in the room seemed to fold in on itself, like a creature tightening its grip around all the terror it could sense. I could barely think straight, but one thought clawed its way to the forefront of my mind. What the hell was happening? A shadow, thick and dark, loomed ever closer, whispering an unspeakable truth about the birth that was meant to be joyful. "Do we have everything ready?" The doctor barked at the nurses, urgency etched into his features as they shuffled around him, faces drawn tight with fear. A nurse nodded, her hands moving swiftly over the surgical tools laid out on the cart. Each sound of metal clinking against metal felt like a knife twisting deeper into my gut. I could see the uncertainty in her eyes. She too felt that something wasn't right. "Sarah," I cried, kneeling beside her, my hand clutching her trembling one. "Stay with me. You're going to be okay. Just focus on me." I tried to inject calmness into my voice, but inside I was spiraling down into the abyss of the unknown as Sarah's eyes searched mine. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting a strobe-like effect that sent ripples of panic through me. "I can feel it," she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "Something is wrong with him. I think he knows about the darkness." A shiver raced up my spine. "What darkness?" I asked, and in that moment I sensed the shift, the weight in the air changing. "What are you talking about?" She glanced at the monitors, those sinister screens that hummed with an energy I couldn't comprehend. "Yes, he is not just my baby. He feels different." Her words hung in the air, wrapping around us like a thick fog. The doctor let out a frustrated breath, striding purposefully back to the monitors. "We need to abort this procedure," he declared, an unexpected twist cutting through the tension. "We can't let this go further until we understand what is happening." "What do you mean abort?" "Sarah, you can do this." I shot back, the desperation boiling in my veins. I couldn't let them take away Sarah's chance to bring her child into this world. But still the whispers grew louder, clawing at my mind, urging me to see the truth lurking just beneath the surface. But then there was another sound, a reverberation that gripped the room. A rhythmic thumping, powerful and resonant, as if something otherworldly was closing in around us. Sarah's eyes widened in terror, and I felt her grip tighten on my hand. "What is that?" she shrieked, looking around frantically as if searching for the source. Before I could respond, the lights buzzed, brightening for a moment before plunging us back into gloom. Pulsing shadows carved paths through the eerie twilight. Then unexpectedly the first cries erupted, distorted, guttural sounds that echoed through the sterile walls, sending chills cascading down my spine. "I can't do this," Sarah screamed, her voice raw with desperation. Please stop. Please. The doctor's focus shifted, the urgency bending his attention. I'm trying to stabilize the situation. We need to center, but his words were swallowed by another louder cry, drowning out everything else. The air thickened, pulse racing, my heart hammering against my chest as I felt the ground shift beneath us. Something was coming. Before I could draw breath, the door burst open, a figure clad in shadow stepping into the light. It was just a silhouette at first, but as the light flickered behind, I could make out the outline of a child. Or was it? Mom! The voice thundered, striking cold fear right through me. You can't let them take him. A shudder raced through the room, and chaos erupted again. Those words reverberated through the terror, awakening primal fears within everyone present. My gut twisted, they were warning signs. Something unimaginable surfacing. Who are you? I breathed, my voice shaking. That unearthly cry replied, not the child, but an echo from another realm, as if the walls themselves were alive. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air, and as I felt the air shifting once more, I knew deep inside that we were spiraling towards something catastrophic. I needed answers, I needed to know what we had awakened. The shadows deepened around us, and a tangible fear gripped my heart. What were we on the brink of discovering, and would we have the strength to confront it? But the figure only laughed softly, the sound cutting through everything, mocking and chilling. Welcome to the darkness. What awaited us now felt like the opening scene of a haunting play. And so began our descent into the unknown. The room felt as if it were vibrating, an unholy resonance saturating the air with dread. I could see the fear etched into Sarah's face, her brow glistening with sweat, contrasting with the icy grip of something sinister curling around my own heart. The child, or whatever it was that loomed behind the figure, remained shrouded in shadows, pulsating with a rhythm that matched the ominous thumping echoing through the walls. Please, you have to listen. The shadowed figure's voice sliced through the chaos like a knife, and my instinct screamed to pull Sarah away from it, to shield her from whatever malice was present. But my body was frozen, caught in a fight-or-flight response. The urge to protect conflicted with the crushing weight of uncertainty. Get away from her! I shouted, stepping forward. My defense instinct kicked in, a primal cry against the unknown that threatened to overwhelm us. I shot a glance at the doctor, who stood transfixed, a mixture of confusion and horror swirling in his eyes. The figure shifted slightly, the light catching an unsettling glint in its eyes, and that previously childlike voice became deeper, more commanding. She cannot be allowed to make this choice. You mustn't let them take him, it warned vehemently, as if directing the fate of every soul there, as if it held the power of life and death. What are you talking about? Who are you? My voice quaked, caught between disbelief and the stark reality playing out in front of us. The shadows flickered once more, and the echoes of the cries from the surgical room shook the air until it felt like we were all holding our breath, waiting for a revelation that was about to shatter everything we thought we knew. Your grandson, the figure breathed, and I could feel Sarah's pulse quicken beneath my hand. He is more than you can imagine, but in this world they will only see him as a threat. Threat? Sarah echoed, her eyes wide, fear morphing into confusion. What do you mean? He is just a baby. No. The figure's voice boomed, instantly stealing the moment of clarity. He is the key to the veil between realms. You do not understand the magnitude of what was conceived in darkness. The doctor snapped out of his daze, rushing toward the figure. We need to stabilize this patient. You're putting everyone at risk. We have to know. You don't get it. The figure cut him off, exuding an energy that drowned out reason, igniting a fury within me. You want to save them. Do you think you can control what is happening here? And then it laughed again, a sound that echoed steeply into morbid layers of fear. Just as I thought I could grasp the chaos, it erupted further. Monitors beeped wildly, alarms screeching as if the hospital itself was rebelling against the intrusion. I want to let you take him, Sarah cried out, fear morphing into defiance as she clutched her abdomen. Those words hung in the air, heavy with determination and raw terror. The figure smiled, a grim expression that seemed to absorb the flickers of hope still weaving through the room. You'll have no choice. The darkness is already at your door, and it's not leaving without him. In that heart-stopping moment, the reality twisted further. I felt the ground quaking, resonating with an urgency I couldn't name. Shadows danced, clawing at the edges of our sanity. As the cries surged into a cacophony, what choices lay before us? Would we make it through this? As the very fabric of our reality thinned, an echo reverberated through the air, and I could only clutch Sarah's hand tighter. The temperature plummeted, and for a terrifying moment, I thought I glimpsed something watching us from the depths of darkness. And then just as suddenly silence fell. A heavy, suffocating silence. But even in that quiet, I could hear it, a soft whisper that seemed to enshrine the air. He will belong to us. With every fiber of my being screaming for clarity, I realized we were standing on the brink of an unfathomable choice. Would we embrace the light amid the shadows or plunge deeper into the unknown? The moment demanded answers. We were competing with forces beyond comprehension. But then there it was again, that pulse, the relentless rhythm, and I couldn't shake the unease. The battle had begun, and soon we'd learn the true price of this birth. What had we set in motion? And could we stop it before it was too late? The silence was thick, almost tangible, wrapping around us like a suffocating blanket. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end, a chilling awareness settling into the pit of my stomach. The air was charged with something sinister, an electric threat that buzzed in my ears, drowning out all rational thought. Listen to me. The figure shot forward, closing the space between us in a heartbeat. It didn't move like a person, it glided. You can't save him, but you can choose. Its eyes, dark and fathomless, bore into Sarah's. I could see her resolve faltering, but she quickly stiffened her spine. I won't let you make that choice for me. He is my son's child. A sudden cold swept through the room, and the shadows wavered, contorting like waves crashing against a rocky shore. The monitors continued their panicked beeping, a chaotic symphony of fear harmonizing with the strained whisper of the figure. Your grandson is more than a child. He is the vessel. And you are caught in a web you cannot untangle. Desperation surged within me, and I stepped between Sarah and the figure, my instincts screaming to protect her and our grandson. Stay away from her. But the creature merely chuckled, an unsettling sound that echoed off the sterile walls. You think love can shield you from what is coming? Your hearts yearn to save him. But the truth is far darker. Embrace it, or he will be lost before he even takes a breath. Sarah's breath quickened beside me, her clarity brushing against the brittle edge of hysteria. What truth? What are you saying? As if summoned by her plea, the shadows behind the figure shifted violently, revealing glimpses of otherworldly shapes writhing in the depths. They hovered just beyond the light, gaping mouths and empty eyes, all screaming silently in a cacophony of horror. They await him, the figure hissed, pointing a long finger toward Sarah's abdomen, where our future was taking shape. He is a bridge in a war you cannot fathom, an intersection of power that threatens the very balance of this world. A bead of sweat rolled down my back. The temperature dropped further. I caught a glimpse of the doctor's ashen face, his mouth moving as he tried to process the terror embroiling us. We need to get Sarah out of here, he finally shouted, but his voice was drowned in the rising tide of despair. Then it happened. The lights flickered violently, plunging us into flickering darkness and back again, like a heartbeat gone haywire. The hum of machines stuttered, then surged, sending a wave of panic through my veins. Make your choice now, the figure demanded, its voice resonating like thunder in a still sky. If you do not accept the sacrifice, it will be taken from you. I felt the walls closing in, the pressure rising alongside my fears. This wasn't just about us anymore. It concerned something much larger, a cosmic balance tilting perilously. The ground beneath us trembled again, reverberating with the unbearable weight of decisions that loomed like shadows. I can't lose him, Sarah whispered, her voice cracking. Tears glistened in her eyes, and I felt a crack in my own steely facade. We were losing our grip on hope, the fight spilling from our fingertips like sand through an hourglass. Suddenly, without thinking, I reached out, clasping Sarah's trembling hand tightly. We won't let them have him. We'll fight. The figure recoiled slightly, its face contorting in irritation. You think you can fight the inevitable? This is only the beginning. Before I could respond, the world shattered once more, the very air vibrating with a guttural roar that made my chest seize with primal fear. I turned, desperate to locate the source. And then I saw it. From the darkness, something loomed, a grotesque figure fueled by desperation and hunger, eyes glowing with an otherworldly hunger. It stretched out its arms toward us, as if to pull us into the void. "Run!" I screamed, feeling Sarah's grip tighten in response. We stumbled backward into the chaos, the screams of the past echoing in my mind as the doctor darted for the door. "Don, do you understand?" the figure cried, urgency lacing its words like poison. "Without him you cannot hope to survive this darkness. He is your way out." What was real? Could there be truth in the madness? I didn't have time for answers. All I knew was we were fighting for something greater than ourselves, our family's very existence. As we darted toward the exit, I could hear soft whispers in the air, wrapping around us like tendrils of fear. "Choose wisely." And just before we burst through the door, a piercing scream erupted from behind, unraveling into the expanse of the hallway. Was it Sarah? Was it the child? The truth now hung on the precipice of terror, and deep down, I sensed that this moment would change everything. And now the darkness was closing in. We barely made it through the door when a shockwave of terror collided with us, knocking the breath from my lungs. The hallway stretched out, dimly lit and ominously quiet, yet my heart raced with the deafening sound of our fear. "Where do we go?" Sarah gasped, her eyes wide, searching mine for direction. I could feel the cold tendrils of fear wrapping around us again, heavier this time, as if the darkness itself were seeping through the walls. "We need to keep moving." I could barely manage the words, my voice trembling. "We can't," but before I could finish, a monstrous echo of footsteps reverberated down the corridor, shattering the silence. The grotesque figure had followed, its form just a shadow at the edge of the flickering lights. The air crackled with an energy that whispered of malice and desperation, and I felt a primal impulse to run in the opposite direction. With adrenaline surging, we raced down the hallway, our footsteps pounding like war drums. I glanced back, catching a glimpse of the figure, its teeth gleaming with an unsettling hunger. It didn't chase us in a conventional sense. It glided, smooth and surreal, like smoke poised to engulf everything in its path. What does it want?" Sarah choked out, fear engulfing her words. "I don't know. We just need to escape." I spat, the rising panic tearing at my resolve. But as we dashed toward what appeared to be a stairwell, dread settled in my gut. The shadows behind us swirled, a chaotic dance that threatened to swallow us whole. We reached the stairwell and I slammed the door shut, leaning against it to catch my breath. The metal felt cold beneath my fingers, a stark reminder of our reality. Okay, I murmured, trying to steady my racing heart. "We have to think. We can't just run forever." Sarah's chest heaved as she tried to collect herself. "But what about our grandson?" she whispered, her voice breaking. A crushing weight hung between us, and I forced myself to meet her gaze. Panic and despair reflected off her bright eyes, mirroring the turmoil raging within me. "We'll find a way to protect him," I promised, though uncertainty coiled tightly in my chest. The moment hung heavy, suffocating, and I felt the ground shudder beneath us, a response to the battle between light and dark that loomed just out of sight. The air shifted, warmer now, thick with an impending storm. Suddenly, a low growl erupted from the other side of the door, sending chills down my spine. The figure was outside, its ethereal voice a haunting whisper that seeped through the cracks. "You cannot hide from the choices you must make. He is waiting for you." "Stop!" I shouted, pressing my hands against the steel door. "What do you want from us? Why are you doing this?" There was a sickening pause, then laughter. "You do not yet grasp the truth. The power lies within him, and he must be claimed unless you choose another path." A scream echoed down the hallway, sharp and filled with anguish. My heart stopped for a fraction of a second. It was somewhere close, vibrating through the walls, echoing through the misery haunting this space. "Sarah," I cried, grasping her shoulders. "We have to make a decision. Now." Trembling, Sarah's gaze shifted, haunted by images of what could be lost. Her breath caught in her throat, and I felt her fear merge with my own, a tempest of uncertainty that threatened to pull us under. "Could those whispers, could they be true?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Is it really a choice?" I nodded slowly, forcing the words past the lump in my throat. "We can't know until we confront it. Until we face what's really happening. We have to sacrifice something to free him." As the door quivered under the force of the creature's rage, the darkness loomed larger, swallowing our hope alongside the air. Make your choice, the voice taunted. A wicked blend of laughter and despair. My heart raced as terror clawed at my insides. What would we be willing to lose to protect our family? And what lay on the other side of that door? The answer hung in the air like poison, thickening with each passing breath. And then came the first crack of the door. The crack widened, a gaping chasm that threatened to unleash the horror waiting beyond. My pulse raced, a wild drumming in my ears that drowned out any rational thought. Shadows shifted, morphing into shapes that clawed at the edges of my vision. Stay close, I urged Sarah, my voice strained and desperate. The door groaned, the sound an eerie warning that echoed for too long. The growls on the other side intensified, vibrating through the ground, reaching for us like a living thing. Maybe we could barricade it, Sarah suggested, her eyes darting frantically around the stairwell, searching for anything to help us. Before I could respond, the door suddenly bucked, rattling in its frame. I barely managed to brace myself against it, my hands slick with sweat. It felt as if the creature was playing with us, testing our resolve. I gritted my teeth, fighting against the urge to break down and flee. No, we have to keep it shut. We can't just stand here, she yelled, the fear spilling into her voice. I could see the shadows distorting more, as if they were feeding on our dread. I took a step back, my legs unsteady. One of us has to confront it. Maybe it's like an illusion if we stand together, maybe it'll back down. The thought of facing that thing sent a shiver through me, but I knew what had to be done. Sarah glanced at me, her expression filled with anxiety as she understood. We can't let it reach our grandson. Taking a deep breath, I nodded. Together then. We'll face it. But we must be prepared to make a sacrifice. It hinted at the truth which is hidden under layers of fear. The growls shifted to frustrated hisses, almost impatient. It cried out, your time is running thin. Make a choice, or you will both perish in darkness. Damn it, I shouted back, anger flaring through my fear. You think you can frighten us into submission? We're here for our grandson. What do you want? It laughed again, a sinister sound that clawed at my mind, teasing its way into my thoughts. He is part of the web you weave. To save him, you must uncover the truth. The price is everything. The darkness seemed to pulse, alive and mocking our struggle. Panic clawed at my throat, suffocating rational thought. In that moment, something changed in Sarah's eyes, a flicker of understanding, or horror. What if she whispered, what if the truth is worse than we think? In that instant, everything else faded away. The shadows around us closed in tighter, creating a barrier. My heart pounded, every beat echoing a dreadful resonance. No, I replied, fear flickering as a bitter edge settled in. We must move forward. It's the only way. Sarah's expression twisted between resolve and terror. But at what cost? The door strained against me, forcing me to stand strong. We can't retreat now. If we do, we lose him for sure. A final terrifying growl erupted, snapping my focus back to the urgent moment. With determination boiling inside, I glanced at Sarah. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. We pushed against the door together as the creature slammed into it from the other side, the force sending shockwaves through the stairwell. Then silence fell like a shroud, heavy, suffocating. Glimmers of light danced through the cracks of the door, illuminating something behind it that sent chills down my spine. I could feel a gravitational pull, a force begging us to surrender, to let go of everything we held dear. What if that's the truth? Sarah breathed, horrified realization dawning. But before I could respond, the door cracked open just a cheeky inch, and I swore I saw a young boy's face behind the shadow, his eyes wide and pleading. He knows, I gasped. The room around us began to tremble with the weight of uncertainty, and the very walls seemed to whisper urgent warnings. What had we unleashed? And would we be prepared for the truth that lay waiting to be revealed? The boy's voice broke through the crack, tremulous and urgent. Help me. It's coming for me. And as we exchanged horrified glances, a chilling realization gripped my heart. The choice was not just ours but his too. What kind of sacrifice would it take to save them all? The door trembled, almost as if it recognized the gravity of our choice. Silence enveloped us, thick and choking, as the shadows writhed in anticipation. I could feel Sarah's hand shaking beside mine, her grip tightening like a vice in fear. Not just for us anymore, but for that innocent child trapped behind the veil of darkness. Can you hear him? Sarah's voice quivered, eyes glistening with unshed tears. He's scared, we have to save him. The boy's plea echoed in my mind, strained and desperate. It's coming for me. What was coming? What had we invited into our lives? Tapping at the door like a ghost longing for escape. Listen, I whispered, trying to drown out the heart-stopping growls and rancid laughter of the creature waiting behind the door. If we could just pry it open a little more, maybe we could pull him to safety. What if it pulls us instead? She shot back, fear thickening her words. My resolve weakened under the weight of her doubt. I didn't want to lose hope, but uncertainty was an insatiable beast, gnawing at my insides. The shadows were watching, and they fed on our fear. Suddenly, a jagged crack of thunder rumbled through the ceiling, shaking dust and debris loose. In that moment, I made a decision. We can't abandon him, I said firmly. Okay, Sarah agreed, her voice barely above a whisper. But if we do this, we have to be ready for anything. We might find out something about him we weren't prepared for. I didn't respond, I merely nodded. Our grandson, the innocent life that connected us, was worth whatever truth awaited us. With a deep breath, I charged the door, my shoulders slamming against the wood, causing a splintering sound to resonate in the silence. The door gave slightly, but I felt the oppressive weight of the darkness pushing back, clawing at my mind, whispering threats that coiled like serpents around my thoughts. On three, I yelled, determination igniting inside me. 1, 2, 3. We threw our weight against the door again, and this time the crack widened, revealing a glimpse of a dimly lit room beyond, a space filled with swirling shadows and a flickering light that seemed to dance to the edges of reality. The boy's face appeared more clearly now, a frightened yet defiant expression. You have to pull me through. Quick! An unseen force yanked at him, tugging him backward as I grasped Sarah's arm, pulling her closer. We won't leave you. Just hold on. Before he could reply, the shadows leapt, stretching tendrils toward us, nearly tangible, like smoke with sinister intent. Old memories washed over me, faces of other lost souls trapped in darkness, their own battles fought and lost. Stronger! I screamed against the growl of malevolence clawing at the world beneath the cracked door. Don't let go! Sarah shouted, her breath ragged with fear. The walls trembled as if hearing our rally against despair, resonating against the very foundation of our determination. In an instant, the shimmering light flickered brighter, illuminating the figure of the boy and the restless shadows surrounding him. The truth surged with a terrible clarity, washing over me, a faint echo of a scream muffled by years and fear, as if the universe held its breath, revealing a tangled family history. My chest tightened as that realization hit. The boy wasn't just our grandson. He was a piece of a much darker puzzle, one that led back to us. What are you hiding? I cried, my voice rising above the howl of the shadows. But there was no answer. Just more hisses from the darkness that threatened to consume the light. They seemed to feed off our doubt, pushing back harder. And then unexpectedly the door flew open, casting us into a space where shadows swirled like storm clouds. I reached for the boy, but the moment my fingers brushed his skin, a jolt of electricity surged through me, a rush of every fear, every uncertainty, blasting me like a wave crashing ashore. In that second, time stood still as I glimpsed a story, a truth I never expected. Are you ready for this? Sarah gasped, a mix of fear and determination breaking through her voice as she locked eyes with the boy. Before I could respond, the shadows whispered a name I thought I had long buried, a name that shook the very core of my existence. And with that, darkness lurked closer, claws sharp, more intent than ever. What would we find on the other side of the truth? What price would we pay to understand the unraveled mystery binding us all? Before the shadows could close in again, I took a deep breath, the weight of what we were about to confront settling heavily on my shoulders. Together, I whispered, shifting my grip to firmly hold Sarah's hand. She nodded, eyes filled with an unsettling mix of fear and defiance. Together, we braced ourselves against the storm of shadows threatening to engulf us. The boy, half hidden in swirling darkness, watched us with pleading eyes that felt like a direct line to our hearts. Please, help me. His voice strained, filled with a desperation that called us into action. I felt a surge of resolve, a deep-seated instinct pushing me forward. This wasn't just about Sarah anymore. This was about family, about protecting our blood, our legacy. I stepped fully into the space, pulling Sarah with me. The shadows hissed. A pulsing darkness shimmered around us, thickening the air until it felt suffocating. "We won't let you take him," I shouted, the words tumbling out in a fierce declaration. With a sudden rush of courage, I closed the distance between the boy and us. I could see now the faint outline of his small frame, torn between the light and shadow. "What is happening? Why is this happening?" I demanded, glancing back at the pulsating shadows gathering at the threshold, gathering strength. "They want to claim what's theirs." The boy's voice trembled, glancing nervously at the dark space that crackled with energy. "They want to keep me as their bridge to feed the darkness." His small frame shook as if physically reeling from the truth he bore that I felt my heart sink. "What do you mean, your bridge?" The urgency seeped into my voice as the walls around us pulsed, vibrating with the power of anguish and uncertainty. "The child is a vessel, destined to either bring light into the world or deepen the darkness," the figure whispered from the shadows, its voice a chilling symphony laced with malice. My body tensed as realization dawned. This child embodied a choice. The shadows were the harbingers of despair, waiting to pull him into the void where light feared to tread. "We will not let you take him," Sarah called out, fiery determination slicing through her fear. "He is our family." The shadows shifted restlessly, closing in like waves crashing upon a shore, relentless and unyielding. It felt as if the very fabric of reality was tearing, withering under the confrontation of hope and despair. "Listen," the boy cried, his eyes wide and terrified. "You have to choose, save me or save yourselves. You must be prepared to sacrifice." "What do we have to sacrifice?" My voice trembled in response. The truth hung between us like a guillotine, threatening to sever the remaining threads of hope. "The darkness will demand something precious. Only then can I be free." The boy's voice quaked, drifting through the air like an echo haunting my heart. He squeezed his eyes shut, knowing what was at stake. I looked at Sarah. She was terrified yet resolute. "Whatever it takes," she whispered, her hand strengthening around mine. "We don't let fear decide for us." The air crackled, shadows swirling, the grotesque figure pushing against the boundary with intent. "You dare challenge fate? You will pay for your insolence." A shudder ran through me. "What do you want?" I shouted into the choking darkness, desperation clawing at my throat. "To keep the child, you must lose something greater," the figure rasped, laughter echoing in the corners of my mind, a sound that held ancient truths buried deep in the fabric of our past. My heart raced. "What if that something is ourselves?" I gasped, the troubling thought creeping closer, looming like a shadow that would swallow us whole. The tension reached a peak as the shadows surged, a maelstrom of despair and darkness. "Make your choice. Without a sacrifice, the darkness will fill this world." The boy's eyes glimmered, desperation mingling with hope. "You can save me. You have the strength within you." I lunged forward, gripping the boy with both hands, feeling the tremble of his small body. "Then we choose." I shouted, "We choose family. We choose love." The world surged in front of me, a storm of light and shadow clashing together as the darkness breathed its final threat. Our sacrifice became a thin thread woven through fear and strength, binding us together as one. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from the heart of darkness, bright and searing. It exploded like 1,000 suns igniting the night. I shielded my eyes, but the warmth filled every crevice of despair until I could feel it melting away chains that had bound us in fear. Through the light, I heard the boy's voice clear and ringing, washing away my doubts. "Thank you for saving me." As the shadows recoiled, fleeing from the light, I felt Sarah's presence next to me, a beacon of unwavering strength. Together we held on to the boy, every ounce of love pushing away fear. The light washed over us, lifting the burden as clarity rushed in, unveiling a space of healing beyond the pain we had encountered. In that blinding radiance, we discovered the true essence of family, the unbreakable bond forged through sacrifices and love. We were no longer isolated. We stood united in triumph. As the darkness retreated, we emerged into a world renewed. Breathless, we turned to face the boy, our grandson, the light flickering like stardust in his eyes, and in that moment we understood. It was not merely about surviving the darkness. It was about embracing the brightness of the love we carried within. We had chosen wisely. Now, if you felt this journey with us, and you're ready for more exclusive stories, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss what comes next. Smash that like button now because it fuels the algorithm and helps us keep telling these incredible tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What do you think about this ending? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. True fans know the importance of spreading the word.